welcome to another video. Today there are three stars of this show. The first is the Soma Pulsar-23, which is a 4-voice organismic drum machine. This thing is absolutely crazy, but a lot of fun. The other two stars of this show are two EuroPi modules running different scripts. The first one is running the consequencer script. The consequencer is a gate sequencer with probability against those particular steps, and then it also has randomness built into it. And the other script is Probapoly, which is a polyrhythmic gate sequencer. Also can do polymeters, and that has probability based into the steps as well. Starting with the Pulsar-23 here, we are integrating it with Eurorack using this particular module here, which is essentially Eurorack modules on the left hand side and then crocodile clips going to different places on the Pulsar on the right. So first of all we have the blue and the yellow. They're triggering the kick and the snare drum that's coming from the consequencer. Next we have the pink and the red. And the pink and the red are triggering the synth voice and also the hi-hat, and that's coming from Probapoly. Finally we have the green cable, which is a looping random stepped CV coming from the consequencer, and that's driving this yellow cable here, which is going to here, essentially modulating the tune of the synth voice. And then the black cable is coming from actually another EuroPi running the harmonic LFO script. This is a sine wave LFO, and this is going to the tune of the hi-hat module. Actually, this black cable is not a sine wave at all. It's actually random, but smooth random, which is modulating the pitch or the tune of the hi-hat. Within the module itself, we have a few things going on, but nothing crazy. There is a noise pin here, so we are routing the noise to the external input on the snare just to give it a bit more body. We are also taking each of the individual out pins and then sending them individually out, so we get a cleaner, crisper sound by doing that. Bit of interesting information actually. I thought I had a faulty pulsar when I first got it, because these two output pins on the bass drum, the kick, and the bass, the synth voice, were always outputting 5 volts, about 4.94 volts. And if you plug it straight into a mixer via one of the outputs here, I was getting a lot of noise. So I reached out to Soma support, and they said it's by design, essentially. So they have no filtering on these two on the way out, because they feel that by adding that capacitance or adding the filtering on the exit affected the bass tone. But there's a simple fix. There's a capacitor here so that you can circuit bend and push things through this particular module here. So if you take the out in through this 10 microfarad capacitor and then route it to the output, then that noise is gone completely and you get a nice crisp sound. That problem is only present, not problem. Design feature is only present on these two modules. The hi-hat and snare module don't have that issue at all. Other pieces of routing here. One of the triggers coming in is being converted to a trigger rather than a gate. So we're using this particular module here, and that's for the hi-hat. So we get short, snappy tones. Other things going on. We're taking the audio out of the synth voice, and we're using that to modulate the snare drum filter, just so we get variances whenever the bass drum is sounding. So before we go any further forward, let's just have a listen to each of the sounds on the pulsar. So let's do the bass drum first, the kick. I love the sound of the kick, and the Instro Tan or Tan H is giving it so much more body. It's cool. We'll leave the synth voice until later. The snare next. So let's have a listen to it without the additional noise and then with. So this is the red cable here. Without and with. So the noise adds loads more body to it, but also you can hear the low pass filter being opened up by an envelope over this way, which we'll get onto in a minute. Finally, the hi-hat module. So you can hear this yellow cable here, you can hear the tune being modulated by the harmonic LFOs running on a EuroPi over this way. But let's have a listen to the difference there. The great thing about this module is it goes, with the tune all the way down, it goes down to just an almost or barely audible click. It sounds cool. It's a really nice sort of clicky sound, and then when we add the modulation, on this side of the patch we have a few things going on. So here we have the consequencer. So we have the bass and the kick going out to drive the bass and the kick on the Pulsar-23. We also have a random looping step CV here. So the green is going over to the Pulsar to change the synth voice. And the other two looping CVs are going through this attenuator and they're modulating the Manis Iteritas here. The Manis is being triggered by the first channel on Probapoly. We'll go a little bit deeper into Probapoly in a second. Also triggered by the first channel is peaked ornament and crime envelope. That envelope is going out to the effects. I'll describe the effects in a second. The second channel of Probapoly is going out to the Pulsar-23. As I mentioned before, one of them is triggering the hi-hat and the other one is triggering the synth voice. There are also two simple effects applied in this patch. The first one is the tan or tan H from Instro. This saturates really nicely. So I've got this on an effects send loop from my mixer, and I have mainly the kick going through there, but a little bit of hi-hat as well. It just adds a really meaty tone to it. And then on the other effects send on the mixer, I have a Desmodus Versio applying some reverb. And this blue cable here, whenever this envelope is triggered, this blue cable will open up the low pass filter on the Desmodus. So the other main voice here is the Manis Iteritas. Let's just have a listen to that now. So it's being triggered here every 4 by the Probapoly. You can also hear it's being modulated. It's being modulated by the CV pattern here, coming from the consequencer. So if we scroll through the CV patterns, you can hear how that changes the sound. So there we have it, a little bit of a sound intro. So let's go a little bit deeper into Probapoly here. So as I mentioned before, it's a polyrhythmic gate sequencer, and it has 2 channels. We have channels, two channels. First channel uses outputs 1, 2 and 3, and then the second channel uses outputs 4, 5 and 6. Each channel is represented on screen here. I'll zoom in again, or I'll zoom in a little in a minute. But you can probably see there is a number 3 on the top channel and a number 4 on the bottom channel. So that essentially represents how frequently they will fire, and in polyrhythmic mode by default, the length of the particular loop. So here the top is 3, that means that that will fire every third, and then it is the length of the loop is 3. And the bottom number is 4, so essentially the length of that loop is 4 and it will fire every 4. So we've got a 3/4 or a 4/3 polyrhythm here. We adjust these with the knobs, so the right knob adjusts the bottom channel and the left knob adjusts the top channel. And these are adjustable from 1 step, so fire every incoming clock, to 23. And you probably noticed as I was turning the dial that a number changed here on the top right. So the top right represents the current step, and then also the length of the pattern. So when you adjust the numbers, the divisors if you like, the Probapoly script calculates how long that particular loop needs to be before it will repeat. And then when it gets to the point that it will repeat, then it cuts it and then it starts again. So you can see that we've got sort of at the simplest point, we've got a 1-bar loop because we've got 1/1. As we increase it, we can get the different numbers. So 8/7 is 56, 8/13 is 104 steps long, and you can see that it keeps changing there. So 10/21, it has 210 steps in it before it actually repeats and then goes back to 0. You'll also notice on screen that we have some bars. That represents the probability of the second and third outputs and the fifth and sixth output. So on channel 1, output number 1, the gate always fires with 100% probability. And then by default, gate 2 and 3 will be triggered, if you like. The probability calculation will be triggered whenever the gate number 1 is fired. But number 2 has a 50% probability of firing. Number 3 has a 25% probability of firing. And the same with the bottom channel. Number 4, output number 4 will fire 100%, so 100% probability. 5 is 50% probability, and then 6 is 25% probability. However, those probabilities can be adjusted by sending CV into the analog input. And we're going to send a sine wave LFO into that. In fact, let's do that now, and you can see it changing. And you can see there that's changing the probability that the gates will fire on outputs 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. So I mentioned earlier that the length of the pattern is calculated based on how many steps are required, giving the two numbers here, how many steps are required before it will naturally loop. However, we can also manually select the loop length, essentially going from polyrhythms to polymeters, where we fix the length of the loop. To do that, we press and hold button 2, and then we get an M, which tells us that we're in manual pattern length mode. And then we adjust the length of the pattern. You can see it says 32 at the moment, and we're at step number 1. So we're going to adjust that using these. So if we want a 16 length pattern, let's make this a bit more reasonable. So if we want a 4/5, we want that to be 16 steps long. That's exactly how we do it. Okay, so we've done enough talking. Let's have a listen to what's going on here. So we'll start with the kick, and notice the consequencer pattern has different icons for the kick channel. For those of you who don't know the consequencer, it's a 3-output gate sequencer, but it also has probability. So at the top there you can see there's like a 4 on the floor kick, but next to 2 and 4 there are dashes. Dashes mean that that particular step has a probability. And if I recall rightly, I set the probability here to about 33% or something. So around about every 3 kicks, or every 3 goes round, we're going to get some double kicks. Let's have a listen to that. And you'll notice the kick's got a load of body, a little bit of saturation. So let me do a before and after. So without the instro tan and with the instro tan. So let's do without first. Okay, and with. Yeah, that's it sounds quite a bit different. It sounds pretty cool. Okay, so next we'll introduce the Manis. So at the moment, Manis is being triggered every 2. Let's change that to I don't know, every 7. Here we go. So next we'll bring in the hi-hat, and the hi-hat is being triggered by the bottom channel, so that's going to come in every 4. We'll have a play around with these, so we'll introduce the snare after that, and then we'll have a play around with these so you can see how it works. Okay, next we'll introduce the snare and also introduce the randomness feature on the consequencer. So if we turn the left knob here, you can see that R value goes up. I'll move my big fat hand out of the way. So the R value goes up, that's the randomness. So we'll have a listen to how that sounds. just a very quick demo actually of how we can use the two EuroPi scripts to control the pulsar and I guess anything else. So we use the consequencer as a gate sequencer, but also we introduce probability to the steps. Of course, there are so many more complicated steps. We just had a simple one. We also introduce randomness. So using this knob here and introducing randomness to the gate sequence, you can also control randomness by sending CV to the analog input. In addition, we use Probapoly to create polyrhythms and polymeters. So polyrhythms without the manual pattern length, and then polymeters when using the fixed pattern length. The Probapoly we use to simply just trigger the hi-hat and trigger the Manis, but of course you can do so many other things. In fact, there's at least one other video on my channel where I use Probapoly with the subharmonicon to create some nice polyrhythmic melodies. Alright, so thanks for watching and see you in the next video.